The best thing we can do, Walt, with these associations in terms of like a grassroots recruitment is to challenge our members to provide their testimony to any prospects. And so folks like me and Chuck Baker can do a pretty good song and dance. I mean, we're dynamic public speakers, and whether it's a small group or an individual, we can tout and be a champion and a cheerleader for our associations. But the real nuts and bolts, Walt, is when our current members provide their testimony, their testament, if you will, to new prospects. And so I'd say the folks that were at UP when I first started that were very active in AREMA probably did a better job of recruiting than most could have otherwise. And so maybe that's something that's of value to our listeners here today, or is that, hey, we can help ourselves by being advocates of our own association and trying to move that needle further.
You may know the American Railway Engineering and Maintenance of Way Association, or AREMA, as the, quote, keepers of the manuals. You may know them as the, quote, people behind the largest annual railroad conference in North America. Heck, you may not know about AREMA at all. This podcast is designed, no pun intended, to change your view of who AREMA is and how AREMA has changed the trajectory of many railway careers over its 100-plus year history. Welcome to Platform Chats with your host, Walt Blesser, where he takes a moment to discuss the impacts AREMA has had on the very people who are proud to be called members. Are you ready to roll with AREMA?
ARE Corporation is a proud supporter of AREMA and Platform Chats. If you are looking to take your railway structures career to the next level, or simply start it down the right track, please visit us at arecorp.com. Please see our brand new job postings on our careers page or on our LinkedIn page.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back to yet another episode of Platform Chats. Believe it or not, we surpassed the 25 episode mark with our last episode. If you had a chance to listen to that one with Tony Hatch, that was an entertaining episode. I don't think I had a lot of opportunity to talk on that one, as many of you might have noticed. And if you know Tony and you've sat through his presentations, you probably know why. But at the same time, I thought that was extremely entertaining. And boy, did he come to this, to our podcast from a totally and different and unique a point of view on our industry. So that was a great one. I hope you got to enjoy that, given that he missed AREMA last fall. And with that, continuing our series of talking to some of, we can call them allies, we can call them sister organizations, we can call them whatever you wish. There are multiple, both professional and trade organizations in the railway space. And we kicked off that little series, the mini series, if you will, with Chuck Baker talking about the Short Line Association. I thought that was a very entertaining podcast. And when he and I finished up, he said, hey, I got a few other people you really should reach out to that would be interesting to talk to. And there's several organizations that would love to get on your podcast, and not only just to tell the public about what they do and what role they serve in the industry, but also how people can get involved if they'd like to get involved beyond just being an AREMA member, which many of our AREMA members are multi-members of multiple associations. And especially with this one, so today's Railway Tie Association, the RTA, if you've spent any time on the track side of our business from the AREMA perspective, you're absolutely familiar with this group. And they are a key member of AREMA Committee 30, which is on ties, which is one of our most populated, it's one of our most popular and populated committees or subcommittees on from AREMA. So today we have Nate Irby, who is the executive director of the Railway Tie Association. And it's his turn to give a chance to talk to everybody about the RTA and what they do and what value they provide to the industry. And I've got a few questions for him too, just about the future of railway ties, and not to give it away, but maybe some of the information on where we're going with with the lack of sawn timber, et cetera, et cetera. But more so, we're really going to talk today a lot about getting the younger generations involved and getting current members of ARIMA who maybe not know about this, getting them involved. So that was a long-winded intro. I do apologize for that. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Nate to do a brief introduction and background on how in the world he became the executive director of this group. Nate?
Hey, Walt, I appreciate that. Thank you for the intro, because you're bleeding into more of my time. So more power to you there, brother. So thank you, Chuck, for the nod here. We worked well with Tony Hatch in the past too. So two big seats to follow there. I hope I do it justice. And so yet again, my name is Nate Irby. I'm the executive director of the Railway Tie Association. I've been there about a year and a half. It's been a very welcoming, and it's such a wholesome group, such a wholesome industry. We play well with others, certainly other affiliated associations. We're proud to be in the fold with them in this industry. Certainly we have all of our own little segments that we kind of carve out. But again, really appreciate the opportunity to be here. I appreciate the fact that you guys would even consider me. I'd say, Walt, that with some of those things you just mentioned in your 3-minute intro, we could spend way more time on each one of those individuals than we allowed in the whole podcast here. But just briefly, how I got here, how Nate got to the RTA, I tell folks I am the luckiest guy in the business. I maintain that because if you are a young professional, I'd say, trying to get out of college or trying to get through college, and trying to figure out what's my path. If you didn't already know that going into your core curriculum in school, I'd say at that point in my life, would have never considered that I would be running a trade association, a membership association, kind of the same thing. And so I'm the luckiest guy in the business because I did understand the value of hard work. I did understand that you can prove yourself, but the timing of things that fell into place, I couldn't have scripted. And so I'm very fortunate. I'm a very humble person. I maintain, like I said, that I'm the luckiest guy in the business. But my name came up at certain times, and it was pivotal for my development. And so I put the building blocks together, so to speak, by working hard and understanding the value of work. But the timing was something that I never could have predicted. And so I'm from Mississippi. I still live in Mississippi. For those of you that heard me talk just a few minutes ago, I'm not French Canadian by any means. I am from Mississippi. I have an accent. I can't avoid it. But I'm proud of it. And so I come from a hardwood sawmill background. My father was an executive with the nation's largest hardwood sawmill. It was actually based in Vicksburg, Mississippi, which is my hometown. We lived some of the time in Memphis, Tennessee, at the headquarters of that large privately owned business. But we also split our time between Memphis and Vicksburg. And so up and down the Mississippi River, that company at one time had 325,000 acres of bottomland hardwood timberland. I grew up working at the log yard. I grew up working in the woods with foresters, log scalers, and had a really enriching, enlightening time actually out in the real world. It was hot. It was kind of a challenging environment. So I quickly learned during those summer stints of working that I needed to go to college so I didn't have to do that type work the rest of my life, even though there's nothing wrong with it. But I realized pretty early on there was value in that. And so, again, being the luckiest guy in the business, I transitioned from part-time work at a hardwood sawmill that basically put food on our table and gave us the livelihood as a family, to honoring that line of work and working with a renewable natural resource such as wood. It was pretty evident that I was going to go into some forestry type related academic curriculum. And so Mississippi State University had such a curriculum. It was called Forest Products at the time, so it's Wood Science and Technology. So I started my bachelor's in the fall of 2002. I'd say that my primary motive was to maintain a 3.0 so I could continue to live in the honors dorm without getting in trouble with my parents, and then get a job with a company truck and be able to hunt and fish and work some and carve out a living that way. Uh, but as I developed a sense of liking the marriage of academia and coupling that with my actual real world experience, even though it was short at that point, but I'd had enough of a dive into it and enough exposure to it to see that the parallels. And so I as senior year approached, I was offered to work on a master's degree at Mississippi State. And so I transitioned straight from bachelor's to master's, again, with the primary motivation of I'm going to get a pretty cool job in the forest products sector. I'm going to continue to have time to dive into those hobbies that I have, the hunting and fishing and outdoor space. I really love the feel good, warm and fuzzies that gives you. I can collect my own food. I'm sustainable. I'm a good steward of our resources, and I'm a spiritual guy. And so it all kind of came together and coalesced into I'm where I'm supposed to be, and this is what I'm supposed to be doing. My mother was a high school science teacher, and so she taught biology, physics, and chemistry. And with my father being a hardwood lumberman, uh, it became this weird sense as I got into the master's program. I really liked both of those things. And so that propelled me to actually finish my master's at Mississippi State. And I actually was awarded the Hoffman Fellowship at North Carolina State University. That was in 2008. And so I moved to Raleigh, North Carolina. Again, I was a Mississippi boy, Mississippi native, and had a really keen sense of I liked being a homebody. I wanted to live in Mississippi. And so I took the step, went to North Carolina State, worked on a PhD there for 3 years. And then I was hired by the American Wood Protection Association, which is a similar space type association, but it's specific to the wood preservation industry. And so it was kind of a postgraduate type stint where I got into the association world and started understanding some of the mechanics behind that and serving a sector of the industry. And then after that, I moved back closer to home because that was a drive of mine, was to move closer to home. And I moved and I went to work for the Mississippi Forestry Association as their director of communications. And although I gained a world of experience in the couple of years that I was there, I was poor and starving to death all at the same time. And so by a weird circumstance of events, looking for a better paying job in the forest sector, a professor friend of mine at Mississippi State got wind that Union Pacific Railroad was looking for a subject matter expert for all their wood products. And so ties, timbers, signal poles, switch ties, road crossings, etc. I knew no one at UP. It was a completely cold type setup where I just went online and found the job posting, applied out of the blue. A series of interviews later, for 8 years, I served as Union Pacific Railroad's category manager for all things wood products. And so that was a shared job between sourcing and engineering. So procuring ties and timbers, going to sawmills, going to all the wood treating facilities. And then on the engineering side, if we had a wood problem, I was the go-to guy. And any R&D, I was the principal investigator for. And so we did a number of R&D projects out on track with wood ties and timbers. I spent 8 great years at UP, thought I was going to retire from that. I was still a pension employee. And just again, by luck of timing, the longtime Railway Tie Association executive director was going to retire. And I had several people approach me from their executive committee. Are you interested? And I said, yeah, but I'm a pension employee with Union Pacific. It would be tough for me to leave. And they said, well, just keep us in mind. And so throughout that process, I actually made the decision. It was a very emotional thing for me to leave Union Pacific again, because I'd gone into it. This is a perfect marriage between, I understand the sawmill side of things. I understand now how railroads work, because I didn't before I started to work for them. They were looking for a wood guy, and I was a wood guy. So now I'm a wood guy with a pedigree from a hardwood sawmill background. But now, in equal measure, I've come up with this set of experiences in the association world, in the railroad world, the sawmill world, and then I had the education to couple all that together. Timing was perfect. And so in November of 2021, I was named the 10th executive director of the Railway Tie Association. And so, again, that was a long thing to come back to the catchphrase here is, Walt, I'm the luckiest guy in the business. And so I'm proud to be here. I find value in AREMA in so many different ways. Again, we won't have time for it, but we have some of the same challenges between our two associations. I think that's going to segue into some of the things maybe you and I are about to get into. So hopefully that wasn't too long of an introduction, but I felt like some of our members may have, or the listeners, excuse me, which hopefully are members. If they're not, I hope they will be. Maybe we're curious about how does one get to that particular space. And so for better or worse, you have it now.
Yeah, that is fascinating. And I don't want to leave this out, because you still remain a subject matter expert, obviously because of your lineage with your family, but you also teach, correct?
Yes.
Or adjunct?
Yes. So I'm adjunct professor at Mississippi State University's Sustainable Bioproducts Department. That's a new catchy way to say forest products. And so all these different wood schools, Virginia Tech, North Carolina State, Oregon State, et cetera, have changed from that traditional nomenclature to something more catchy and phrasey like that, to kind of capture some of those folks that might not necessarily know much about the wood products industry, but they are interested in renewable, sustainable materials. And so that's kind of a catch way to say that. So yes, I do help with the department when I can. I help with graduate student programs as well. And I'm the chair of their advisory board. And so we meet once a year and go over the curriculum. We'll go over teaching spots, research, advocacy, extension, things like that, and make sure we're serving the state of Mississippi and beyond in the most appropriate ways, and we're staying current. And so I don't like to talk about myself too much. I'm sorry I left that out, but I'm very proud of that Mississippi State adjunct professor gig, and it blends well with what I do with the Railway Tie Association as well. So it works out.
Yeah, absolutely. I just full disclosure, I have been a many year member of Committee 7, which is Timber Structures. Was the chair of that committee many years ago. And have spent quite a bit of time around the timber bridges. And when you were talking, I have so many technical questions that I want to get your opinion on, but I do want to pay homage to what we're doing here with the agencies. And so when you were at UP, you said for 8 years, were you an AREMA member? And if so, did you sit on any of the committees?
I've always just done the AREMA 30 sub 2, just because it fits so much in our wheelhouse. And we had, I'd say, with any affiliated associations such as AREMA, UP had a whole host of folks that served in various capacities at AREMA. The best thing we can do, Walt, with these associations in terms of like a grassroots recruitment is to challenge our members to provide their testimony to any prospects. And so folks like me and Chuck Baker can do a pretty good song and dance. I mean, we're dynamic public speakers, and whether it's a small group or an individual, we can tout and be a champion and a cheerleader for our associations. But the real nuts and bolts, Walt, is when our current members provide their testimony, their testament, if you will, to new prospects. And so I'd say the folks that were at UP when I first started that were very active in AREMA probably did a better job of recruiting than most could have otherwise. And so maybe that's something that's of value to our listeners here today, or is that, hey, we can help ourselves by being advocates of our own association and trying to move that needle further.
I could not agree with that statement more. I could probably end the podcast right there. I mean, that is how we have very similar stories. I really enjoyed listening to yours. I also graduated in 2002. I joined AREMA like in 2005, and I joined the Timber Structures group because I had just done some ratings as a young guy. I didn't fully understand them and needed help. I needed mentorship beyond the consultancy that I was working for, and to throw them under the bus, it was a lot of Union Pacific guys. It was Ken Wammel, and who's retired, Jeff Mancuso, who he and I are very close today. Roger Boris, all these guys were ex Southern Pacific, right? And they were keeping these timber structures rolling. And I learned more. Well, I don't want to get in too much trouble here, but I probably learned more after 5 o'clock with those guys than I did between the hours of 8 and 5, if you will. On some of the other jobs I worked for. And they were the ones that pushed it, man. You're right. It was grassroots. It was, here's why you need to stick with it. And here's the relationships you're going to build. And I assume you get the same thing with the members of the RTA. And I haven't even given you a chance to talk about the RTA. I mean, what is it? What does it do? What purpose does it serve?
Yeah. So I love your comment about after 5 comments, because a young listener, I think that's equally as important as the day-to-day is immersing if you want to really immerse yourself in it and listen to the old guys, the old folks that are in the room, you probably absorb more during those networking events, a cocktail hour at an AREMA or an RTA. And so equally as important as the technical content that's provided those various functions. RTA is the Railway Tie Association. We've been around since 1919. We serve 3 primary functions. We hold educational events throughout the year, industry statistics and information, and then, of course, the networking, engagement, advocacy all kind of boil into it. So I tell people we're a 3-legged stool when it comes to education and data, and then the value of the association by bringing together our industry in various capacities. And so the transfer of knowledge, if you will. We work to keep wood tie markets strong and sustainable. Wood is still 93% of what's put in track infrastructure in terms of ties and timbers, et cetera. So that's the majority of our membership. There are some new tie manufacturers in the composites tie side that are developing some technologies that seem to be viable. There's been a resurgence in some capacity with concrete ties. And so we're very respectful of those different entities. It's just that wood is still the majority of what's put in place. And so that's our membership. We're actually north of 3,000 members. And I'd say it's an interesting time for RTA because we're actually in growth mode still. And so 1919 to 2023, and you're still in growth mode, Nate. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Be glad to tell you all about it. And so with us taking a real hard look, deep dive into what is going to propel RTA for the next 100 years, I'd say our membership segments on the polar ends of what we do. So the sawmill side and the railroad side are our most underserved membership. And it's not because the RTA hasn't wanted to. They just haven't adopted tactics to engage. Whereas the core part of the membership are the wood tie producers themselves, so the treating plants and all those allied affiliates. They have maintained membership. They have, even though we've had some industry consolidation, but everybody has, every industry has. And so, your problems aren't, unlike mine. And so as we go through and identify, well, we need to try to recruit more sawmill members. We need to recruit more railroad members. I maintain that well, we've got to respect and honor tradition. We've got to respect and honor those folks that have stayed with us. We need to maintain that relationship, but also can grow. And so I've had several people give me very nice compliments that I'm the perfect guy for the job. And I don't say that lightly, and I cringe a little bit when I talk about myself in that capacity. But with my background in sawmilling and railroading, and now trying to figure out how to run an association, I'm still trying to figure it out. We're in very much growth mode because of all these things coming together. And so as the waters converge, if you will, RTA is in growth mode, and we rely on other associations to help us in that capacity. And so the ARIMAs, the RIMSAs, the ASLRAs, all these different allied associations, we have some of the same issues. With RTA having our own little space, we want to maintain that identity, but we can all collaborate, I think, in a more enhanced way. And so we're growing right now, and it's not all due to my credit. It's due to us, the RTA association management team, listening to member feedback and acting on it. And so every time we've had an event since I started, and we've had several now, I ask for polite and meaningful feedback. And of course, I always get a chuckle when I say it that way. If I ever become, me or the staff ever becomes unapproachable, then we're not serving the association, we're not serving the industry. And because our members value what we do so genuinely, that they're willing to invest their dollars and contributions in all these different ways, we'd be doing them a disservice not listening to them properly. And so we've adopted this whole feedback aura, if you will, on RTA is this, we serve these members in this capacity, but it's our association. It's not my association. It's not the staff's association. It's not one member's association. It's a collective entity, and this entity, you could think of it as kind of like an amoeba from a biology standpoint. We're growing diplomatically and appropriately. We don't want to change too much too fast. Again, going back to that honoring tradition and valuing what knowledge we have now and how can we be adaptive and grow. The younger members today, when I get a chance to talk to them and actually recruit one-on-one, they need to know what we are, because most of them come into this industry by way of these own unique stories. I feel like my story is kind of unique. Walt's story is kind of unique. Others, it's unique. But raising that awareness, and so how do we penetrate those lines of communication to raise that awareness? We're actively doing that in certain ways. I'd say ARIMA's doing a stand-up job of that with stuff like this. And then as RTA develops that next wave of membership in all categories, share our successes and our failures with all the other affiliated associations. And so for one example would be, I meet with the Southern Forestry Association executives every fall for a fall retreat. And so us executives get together, have a cocktail after 5 o'clock, and then meet for a couple of days and talk about running our associations. And some of these state forestry associations have absolutely knocked it out of the park when it comes to membership retention and membership recruitment. And so they've hired some great young folks that can help propel what they do. Hey, man, I'm taking notes. When we do that 2-day retreat, I come back with more ideas than I've collected the entire year up to that point. And so I would challenge our sector in railroad engineering and maintenance of way and all of our allied associations. Hey, we ought to have a powwow. We ought to get together once a year. Let's do a little retreat, get the phones away, go somewhere. Yeah, and we have a little fun at the Southern Forestry thing, but if we're truly indebted to what we do, not only for our association, but for the survival of our associations and serving our respective niches of this industry, I think that's something that could easily, hey, come together, compare notes, what worked, what didn't, and then perpetuate that. I don't know if it's on an annual basis or not, but if we get anything out of this, I'd say out of this podcast, other than Nate has a real thick Mississippi accent, would be we want to work with you. RTA wants to work with you. We want to grow our association. We want your associations to be healthy. How can we best do that? Can we best serve our industry? This is a great industry. It's a very wholesome industry. There's a lot of knowledge there. There's folks that want to transfer that. And so young entrants into the business, I'd say if you come to an AREMA, you come to an RTA or a short line or a RSI, NRC, RIMSA, you name it, you're going to get exposure to the broader scope. And so, yeah, you could go to your job and do your job day in, day out for your respective company. But if you want to advance, I think these associations are a big part of that because they widen your gaze, they broaden your horizon in so many different ways that, yeah, your education helped get you there, your experiences helped get you there. If you really want to balloon that, you really want to get yourself into a fast track, or not necessarily fast track, but an appropriate trajectory based on your professional development, being members of these associations. And it doesn't have to be that you have to lead a committee within an association, but by the fact that you're contributing your time to be there, because I'm pretty sure most employers want you to be that dynamic with your job, that you're attending association meetings throughout the year. I'd say that's probably one of the fastest and I'd say most strategic and tactical way both to get yourself into this line of work and really propel yourself from a career standpoint. I went on a little bit there, Walt. I am writing a book, and so it's called Gaining Perspective, a primer for the young professional. And so you and our audience just got a little bit of a segue into, or not a segue, but just a dip into to what I'm thinking and how I'm thinking about things. And I'm not right. There's other opinions that are probably more superior to that, but I'd say that those young professionals do have a slightly different way of thinking. So we've got to be flexible in that. And so I'm excited for us. I know it's a challenge, but with challenges, there's opportunities. And so I hope I gave RTA justice there. We're again, 3,000 members strong, and we're growing. And it's evident. Our meetings are filling up faster than they ever have. And I can't take all the credit for that. It's that we've got a supportive membership that is driving it. And so I'm just putting some pieces together and steering the wheels.
I love this. There's so much to unpack in what you just said, but I'm going to try to focus on a few things. And a big piece of it is younger member engagement and keeping them involved and giving them a reason to come back. I think that has been a struggle for all professional organizations. I know when I first started going to AREMA, even the big conferences back in 2005, I mean, it felt like it was we were doing exactly the same procedures as 1965. And, I heard what year you graduated. So we're roughly the same age, and I'm looking at the new generation coming in. You're seeing it firsthand, and you're as a professor and as an instructor. We're entering the workforce in a different way. We receive our information differently. It's constant. It's on our phones. It's on our computers. We can't ever put it down. It seems you're seeing a workforce. At least I'm seeing a workforce asking to work from home in an industry that, in the engineering professional services industries, can be very difficult to learn, say, bridge design, track design, etc. When you don't have the ability to get up, go down 2 cubicles or 2 offices and say, hey, Keith, I'm not processing this formula, right? That's hard to do in a vacuum at your house in your pajamas. And yet I am seeing a switch, not to talk too much here, but I am seeing a bit of a shift back to a hybrid workforce. That's how my company that I work for That's how we operate. We like to do kind of a 3 days in the office, 2 days off, or similar, whatever works for our employees. But we continue to push the value of these professional organizations, and not just going from 8 o'clock to 3 o'clock and just constantly looking at your phone, but actually trying to participate in the technical conversations that are going on, and grabbing someone and going to grab a beer or a baseball game or whatever's going on at the time. I don't have all the answers. I look forward to reading that book. I'll tell you that right now. It sounds fascinating, and I think that's you're attacking a subject that I think about a lot and is near and dear to my heart. So it's interesting. Your perspective is fascinating to me. And to see an organization like yours at the age of it to be in growth mode is so cool to see happening. And I think, and the idea of having all of the organization leaders get together, I've already written that down. I think I wrote that down and underlined it 3 times because I think that should, I don't know why that wouldn't be happening. We are not in competition. We are allies. We are, cross-pollinating beyond belief at a time that it needs to happen. So I actually didn't have a question on that one, Nate. You just got me going.
Well, I'd like to touch on just a couple points real quick there. As far as RTA, we've changed our annual meeting format. I'd say what Chuck did and what Ashley's doing now with the NRC, they were a big developer in changing the way annual meeting formats happen. So we went to a half-day technical conference and symposium, and then half-day open periods in the afternoon. So in the mornings, you have some of those great educational and technical venues that you've always had with transfer of information, et cetera. And then we go to a half-day open period where we've provided meeting space, breakout meeting space. If you want to have some meetings with potential customers, or you want to sit at a table and catch up on emails, or you want to go on a brewery tour or go play golf, we've changed the annual meeting format based on feedback of, hey, we don't need the all-day grind. The all-day grind is not helping us wholly. We love the technical information, but that's not for everybody in the room. We've got some sales folks that maybe want to meet some of their new railroad folks that they hope to do business. So what's a better way to do that is, let's have some open time in the afternoon. And then as far as I'd say with the industry evolution of work approach or approach to work, you're right. Most of the railroads have also gone to a hybrid approach. And so there's 2 days in, 3 days out, or vice versa the next week. You can be effective. I tell my students all the time when I get to teach, which I love to teach, and I get to do that with RTA too. So again, I'm the luckiest guy in the world, or the business. You can be effective at working from home. You can also prioritize and manage and be self-autonomous enough, even if you're not used to it, to be effective for your employer. There's ways for you to promote what you do and how you do it to your employer. So when I worked for Union Pacific, I never was in Omaha. I never was stationed in the headquarters. And I had a lot of people ask me, that's a really important job. How did you not be stationed at headquarters? I was more effective in the field. So I traveled 70% of the time. And so I could basically live where I needed to live to effectively do my job. I sent monthly summary reports to 3 or 4 levels above me. And it was a 1-page, 6 different categories on what I did that month. And not only was it promoting what I did and self-serving in that I justified my existence with Union Pacific, but it also was a great journal entry for me because I would go back several months in the past to see, didn't I check on those ties on the Tucumcari sub in New Mexico in August? And so I'd have this great journal entry where I inspected 3,000 ties in Tucumcari, New Mexico in August. And so it gave presence to what I was doing. It was journal entry. It was effective. I would say that even younger folks entering the workplace today, even if you're not required to do something like that, if it's a weekly update or a monthly update, I think you ought to, because it would help not only promote what you do and how you approach the work, but if you don't get your feelings hurt, if you do send it and somebody gives you a suggestion on what you could probably change, take that as they care. Don't take that as negative feedback. And so if they care enough to reply, that means they care enough to think about retaining you and perhaps promoting you to a position someday that may not ever get advertised. Something may pop up, and you've just now created a communication paradigm where you fit yourself into that by virtue of giving yourself a promotional factor of, I can stay organized, I can stay effective, and then I have enough initiative and gumption to do this on my own, even though I wasn't told to. And then you got all the value of, it's a journal entry. You could do a chronological thing at the year based off those weekly or summer reports. Again, that gives evidence that you're on top of your job, and even if you don't want promotion, it gives evidence that we need to keep this person around because they bring value. They're a valuable asset to our company. And so maybe that's a tangible thing that young folks could do. It's not that much effort. As long as you keep it up throughout the month, it's not like you get to the end of the month, I got to write this summer report. If you keep it up every few days, it kind of helps you stay organized. Again, and in different ways, it opens doors that wouldn't have been opened otherwise. And so perhaps enhances or accelerates your trajectory. And then again, it gives value to what you do and how you do it. I'd say all the time to our folks, the power of presence is key. And so I travel all over the country talking about RTA, but I also travel all over the country and I meet new entrants into this market or this industry. And I try to talk to them about not necessarily what I did or how I did it, but get them involved in a conversation about themselves. And these are some of the things that we talk about is some ask, most don't, but some ask, how did you get here? And I say, well, here's my story, but here's some things that I did that I wasn't necessarily required to that helped propel. And then relay it back to their specific position. What do you do and how do you do it? And they said, well, I have this job and I do it this way. I said, what kind of special projects do you think you could take on? And so that starts a conversation and that kind of snowballs from there. I don't knock it out of the park with every one of them that I meet, but I feel like at the end of the day, they at least gain perspective. And that's why I'm writing the book, Gaining Perspective. So
I love it. I could probably go another hour. I do want to just be respectful of your time as well. From a technical perspective, I had a bunch of questions rolling around in my brain. On Committee 7 and other areas of the world of large solid sawn timber, there's constantly a comment of we just don't get what we used to. And I see a push more and more towards glulam for stringers, and I'm seeing it now for ties. Do you share that perspective, or would you like to revolutionize that thought and shake it up a bit?
Luckily, UP had already adopted a glulam stance, or at least Jeff Mancuso and guys like Mike Freeman that work for Union Pacific and others. I don't want to leave others out. There's several. They were already proponents of glulam when it came to large bridge timbers. So if you think about bridge timbers, 8x10x10s and 10x10x10s are kind of your standard deck ties. With using a glulam product where you're gluing 2x10s or 2x12s or whatever together, you create some engineering perspectives and verification that you may not necessarily have with a solid sawn product. So when you get bigger products, maybe it makes more sense for a glulam. And then when you get back to like a 7x9x8.6, which is a standard mainline grade 5 cross tie, does it make sense to have all that money wrapped up into a glulam? Not necessarily. It's not that I'm against it, but we do have enough solid sawn out there that's being manufactured today to suffice the industry. It may just not all come at the time the industry needs it, because there's other commodities, wood product commodities, that are taking away from tie production, for instance, at any given moment in the marketplace. And so railroads may be dissatisfied of they're not getting enough ties today, but they may get them sooner. And so it's interesting that you bring that up, Walt, is because we've got some alternative species that railroads are now considering for solid wood ties. They're also considering some of the newer composites still, and that's kind of an ongoing thing. But being able to produce a composite to the scale of what the industry needs, they lose that consistency of the aggregate, and so then the quality drops off. Railroads today, and this is by virtue of RTA in some part, RTA puts on an annual tie grading seminar. It's a 3-day immersive class for railroaders, wood tie treaters, salespeople, executives, etc., that helps understand not only the alpha to omega when it comes to getting ties and timbers to marketplace, but all the finer points in between about how to be quality stewards of quality when it comes to wood ties and timbers. Ties and timbers, in essence, are lasting longer than they used to. And folks say, well, that's an inverse of what I'm hearing, is that the timber quality is not there, and why are ties being taken out faster? Ties are actually being taken out at some degree, in some instances, more so than they used to be. But if you think about all the great things that the wood tie producers and the railroads are doing from quality perspectives to maintain a quality level, a consistent level of service, ties are at the point where we're actually maximizing their biodeterioration potential in all the things we do throughout the process to get a tie to marketplace. Proper quality seasoning, quality inspection points all throughout the process, and then delivering a value-added product with its preservative treatment and all that effectively to the railroads. Railroads are still going to have to replace ties. Sometimes they replace more ties than they need to by various reasons. You may have a super gain that comes in. They may not be back in that area for a long time. So, yeah, they're going to pull some ties out that probably didn't get needed to. And so a blend of all that coming together, all those different philosophies, it's an exciting time to be thinking about different glulam products for ties, different alternative species, and then how we, as stewards of our industry, maintain a high and safe level of service for the public and all the communities that all our railroads serve in North America. And so with that being kind of a long-winded answer, we're open to exploring some of those newer technologies, and we get approached by these new folks that have ideas and want to bring it to them. That's very flattering for the RTA. And again, with our tie grading seminar and some of the R&D that RTA has been doing since the early 2000s, we are the resource when it comes to wood ties and timbers. And again, we play nice with others. I actually have, at the end of the annual meeting of RTA every year, we host the ARIMA 30. And so all the different subcommittees use the same meeting space on the back end of our annual meeting to do their business and do their good work. Some of those standards need updating. They're actively, all those different subcommittees are tangibly bringing those standards up to date. And it's great that we have that level of collaboration and kind of help all of these things kind of come together and coalesce into what is the state of the art, and then what does this look like moving forward. So I hope I did that justice, Walt.
Oh, you did perfect. And I don't think there's a better way to end it, because I think that is the open-ended answer I kind of want, in the sense of, hey, we're open to ideas. We're open to seeing it. It's not a closed-minded answer of, hey, we got this figured out. Right. We've been doing railroading for 150. I hear that a lot. Oh, you're in the railroad industry. Haven't they figured that out by now? There's certain aspects, sure. But it's a constantly looking for ways to be more efficient and to your point, better stewards of our resources as we move into the future. So I really appreciate. What is the RTA's website address in case anybody wanted to get in touch with you?
RTA.org. RTA.org.
RTA.org. Perfect. And if you don't think I'm going to talk to the ARIMA leadership about putting together this group of folks getting together to talk about what's working and what's not, you're crazy, because that's officially on my to-do list. So thank you for that action item, Nate. And I look forward to reading your book. And honestly, this was really entertaining. I just looked at the clock and I was like, wow, that went really fast. So thank you so much for coming on, Nate.
Yeah, this was great, Walt. Thank you. Thank ARIMA. We love what we have with ARIMA in terms of the partnership. And so I wish them the best. And yes, please do share some of those ideas. Hopefully there were some young listeners here today that maybe got some ideas about how to help their own trajectory and professional development. My contact information is available at rta.org. If any listeners are out there that would like have a further discussion about some of those things, I don't have all the answers. I'm glad to share my story. I'm glad to connect dots. And so if there's others in the industry that may be more suited to talk to you more about your own career, I'd be glad to connect those dots. But in any way that I can help a younger person, and again, I don't want to diminish from honoring those that have served us for so long, they too would agree. We have to be looking for the next class of membership. And the best way I think we can do that is a combination of current member testimonies and then us as associations making sure that we have no barriers to entry, that we are being inviting, we're being welcoming, and we have value to give by virtue of what we do and the potential for all those things that we can and perhaps should be doing to move our industry forward in our respective ways.
We'll leave it there. Thanks again.
Thanks, Walt.
Thank you for rolling with ARIMA on today's episode of Platform Chats. For further information about ARIMA, please visit arema.org or contact us at info@arima.org.